Okay, Giorgia, you can start.
Okay, hello to everyone. I'm Giorgia, and with my colleagues Andrés and Mustapha, we want to talk about the peopling of America from the dental, cranial, and lithic point of view. We focus our attention on, especially in the South America. And our supervisor are Marta Arzarello and Julie Arnaud. And we want to say thank you to Marta and Julie. So, when we talk about the first peopling of America, we can ask to us the three principal questions. Who were the first, when they arrived to the continent, and where they entered? So more or less we can we know where they arrive, or maybe maybe the only way where they can enter is the Bering Strait, and we can know more or less the time when they arrived. So during the last maximum glacial from the 26,000 60,000 years ago and 19,000 years ago. But we don't have the definitive answer for this. Nowadays, we have three different hypotheses for who were the first in America. The first hypothesis is there is three different migration events. The other is only two migration, and the last is one single migration. And we ask to us when we do this work where they came from, because Asia and Europe, Asia is very big. So where they come, maybe from the southern Eastern Asia or Northern East Asian population. Now and we to have a very precise answer to this question, we need to have remains from remains earlier than 10,000 million years ago. Or if we have this type of remains, they are very fragmented and they have a very poor state of conservation. So now I want to talk about the cranial morphology of these first people. So we can divide the early hominin in America into different groups: Paleo-Indian and Paleo-American. Paleo-Indian are more like the Chinese Mongolian people. So they have a short and wide neurocranium, high and orthogonadtic faces, and relatively high and narrow orbits and noses. Paleo-American are more like Australian Aborigine, Polynesian, and Sub-Saharan people. So they have a narrow and long neurocranium, prognatic and low faces, and relatively low and broad orbits and noses. I'm sorry for this image, it's not very good. The best preserved school came for the first people in America came from Lagoa Santa in Brazil, and how we can see in this graph, they are more like Australian and Polynesian people than the Northeastern Asian people. In fact, how we can see here in the graph, they are more like Tasmanian and Australia than maybe the Japanese people. This is the one image of the Lagoa Santa school, the best preserved. If we compare, we have some remains from the North America, and if we compare this school with the South American school, we can see they are very similar and they are very heterogeneous. What I mean, they don't have the same traits for for all the schools. We can see they are there is some schools are more like Paleo-Indians people and other are more like Paleo-American people. For this heterogeneity, we have two different hypotheses. One is the multi-migration theory. So they say we have two migration. There was two migration in from the Asia. Or another is internal speciation. What I mean, they have one common ancestor, and after they specialize. They try to be. They adapted, to each different region. But the second, it's not the most probability hypothesis, because they don't have enough time to do this internal speciation. So the most probably is the multi-migration theory. Now my colleagues Andrés talk about the dental morphology.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the peopling of the Americas from dental studies and dental morphology. Okay. So next slide. Then there has been several studies that have applied the dental morphology to the peopling of the Americas. One of the most important works was developed in 1997 by Scott and Turner, in which they proposed a classification of the human populations based on their dental morphology, in which they analyzed 42 dental traits, which they established by studying thousands of teeth from groups from all around the world. And they selected these depending of how well represented are on each of the different populations. So they developed a methodology called the Arizona State University Dental Anthropology System, also known as SUDAS, which is based on morphological, qualitative, and discontinuous traits, in which with the help of standardized dental plaques. Here we have two examples of two traits: the shovel-shaped tooth of the upper incisive and the metacone or COPS3 of the upper molars. So from this work, they developed this map of the 5 major subdivisions of human populations based on their dental morphology. We have the Occidental Eurasia, Sub-Saharan Africa, the Sino-Americans, also known as Sinodont, the Sunda Pacific, also known as Sundadont, and Sahul Pacific. For the peopling of the Americas, we're going to focus especially on the Sino-Americans, the Sinodont, and the Sundadonts. And so why? According to these authors, the Eastern Asia can be divided in two main groups, the Sundadont and the Sinodont. The Sundadont group can be subdivided again in recent and ancient Southeastern Asia populations, the Polynesian and Micronesia, and they are considered more ancient and primitive populations with a more generalized dental morphology. Meanwhile, the Sinodont can be subdivided in China, Mongolia, recent and ancient Japan people, Japanese groups, northeast of Siberia, south of Siberia, and also they include the people groups from North America, the Arctic of America, northeast of North America, and the rest of North and South America. They are considered to be the right population from other North Asian groups, and they have a more specialized dentition with intensified trait expressions, so a more complex dental morphology. According to these authors, the early Americans only present a Sinodont morphology. Therefore, they say that they come from Northeastern Asian populations, given that the Native Americans have very few variability within them. So it's probable that they originated by a single genetic flow or a founding event. And the American continent can be further subdivided in 3 groups: the Aleutiano-Eskimo, the Na-Dene, and the rest of Native Americans, which all have Sinodont patterns. So they propose a tripartite model, or 3 migration waves, in which there was one early migration that spread all around the continent, and followed by 2 others that were only restricted to the north of North America. Nevertheless, there has been other authors and other works that have reported the presence of Sundadon patterns in the oldest remains of the American continent that date around the late Pleistocene and the early Holocene. And it's until the late Holocene that we start to find these Synodon patterns more generalized in Native American populations. So we have to propose two hypotheses here. First is the Sundadon model, in which there was two migrations. First, early migration originated from Southeast Asia that was later replaced by another migration from the Northeast, or a convergence model that was proposed by the people that proposed the Synodon model, in which there was a tripartite model, a three-wave model, and the Sundadon morphology found
Good morning, everyone. In this part, we will talk about lithics in South America. We will discuss their implication, particularly for peopling of the South America. You can see in this map the different sites of America in their distribution. The artifact from Valdapedra Fodra are only made from quartz pebbles. The technical analysis have shown the quality of the quartz and quartzite blocks and very precise morphological criteria. The source of the Valdapedra Fodra pebbles is the same as that of Boquerau, the Pedra Fodra. The series of 294 object called and identified by the process of technological features. Three processes were identified on shaping process to debitage process for the production of tools on like flakes and pebbles. Two methods dominate bipolar reduction and reduction schema to shape carefully select pebbles based on certain criteria. Some artifacts show evidence of butchery activity. Scarping medium are artifacts such as wood used to perforate hard materials of animals' origin. The other show trace of activity in soft to medium materials, some as wood. The results confirm that these artifacts were used by people in their daily activity. The earliest probable lithics that award 25,000 years ago or early and consist of 4 specimens, 2 for which are possible we rounded, a possible shopper weight or clear process shape on the weight quartz and angular basalts, flake showing on the evidence of culture used, dating between 60,000 and 50,000 KLBP are three artifacts of basalt wedge, culturally produced basalt flake with process marks and intentionally split pebbles weight every marginal retouche. Excuse me. The edge word pebbles tools industry are relatively common in the early multi-purpose technology. This industry are dominated by a range of edge cut flakes and edge lithium pebbles and cords to represent timely technology.
Okay, and now for the conclusions of the work, we can see that both morphological analysis suggest a multi-migration model in which the Sundadon model and the cranial morphology data agree with two migrations, one early wave originated from Southeast Asia, followed by a second from Northeast of Asia. Meanwhile, the Sundadon model proposes three different migration waves and origins. One different origin from the Sundadon than the other models, in which was three migrations from Northeast of Asia. From the lithic assemblages, we cannot say the same. It's more difficult because the material is totally different from the one used in the East of Asia. And whether the unifacial and bifacial assemblages preceded each other, or if they represent different adaptations associated with different environments in different migrations, it's not well understood yet. So therefore, we need more information from archaeological sites and also more human remains to study with prior to the 10,000 years to arrive to a better conclusion to this problematic. So thank you for your attention.